Wow, that's some introduction. I would have to say that you should play poker with me every day. Sorry. Okay, so I'm actually not a food expert, but like many of you guys, I love food. So I wanted to know how many of you guys get goosebumps when you eat something super yummy and get like chills? Yeah, I know, all the time. So we humans have a really rich history with our love and relationship with food. It is part of our culture, it is tradition, it is social, it is multisensorial, it is sustenance, it is comfort. We know this already, right? And there's nothing as intimate as our relationship with food. Now, don't tell my boyfriend that because he might get jealous, but I would actually suggest that, I would even argue that food tech is the first technology that disrupted our human history. So maybe we don't really think about fire as a type of technology, but our ability to control fire was actually really relevant in terms of how we developed in terms of our food tech innovation. So that happened about 500,000 years ago. It allowed humans to cook, to get warmth and protection. We all know this. But something new that I discovered was that one of the reasons fire was used was to cook not meat, because we could eat meat raw. I love steak tartare. We could eat sushi. But fire was used to cook root vegetables that was very difficult to digest. So with that, because fire allowed us to eat more vegetables, and that sprung up the beginning of farming. And that completely changed the society from being nomadic to being settlers. And that was the beginning of civilization. And not only that, as we grow more and more crops, sorry, I'm going to go back. As we grow more and more crops, these societies begin to trade their surplus. And so from one tribe to the next, from one village to the next, and so all of a sudden, the Silk Road became, I have a missing slide, I'm sorry. The Silk Road then became a major network of the trade connecting the East and the West. So there's supposed to be a slide of the Silk Road in the map. So as traders are moving in longer and longer distances, these perishable products, food that they're carrying with them, required preservations. So at that time, spice trading became more and more relevant in this new economy. And you see at that time, spices was very important because they used it for preservation of meat. But they also used spices to mask the bad taste of spoiled meat. So you can actually eat spoiled meat as long as you cook it, it just tastes bad. So they would add spices so that they could continue trade these meat along the Silk Road. So, but the spice industry, interesting enough, here was the slides for the Silk Road. So until the spice industry was then disrupted by the innovation of the icebox. So all of a sudden they start reinventing how they're going to distribute and carry the food in long distances, and now eventually became our modern day refrigerator. Now you add that and pack these little tiny ice boxes, line them up one another, and now you have this concept of automated dining that was flourishing the turn of the century. And just as the assembly line of mass production increased efficiency in production, these automated dining allows the efficiency in consumption. So this then basically became the predecessor of our modern day supermarkets, and with prepackaged food, prepared food, ready for consumption. And you add data, you add intelligence, you add e-commerce to the mix, and you have this combination of what we know today, Amazon, big tech companies merging with supermarkets. Now that's basically, a history of food innovation in a nutshell of the past 500,000 years of what I name the food, the whole foods, and nothing but the foods. But I'm not going to end here. I'm also going to talk about the future of the kitchen of the future, like our other speakers. But I'm going to talk about it from the perspective of the Jetsons and the Star Trekkers. Because as you see, we fantasize about our future of food. And we fantasize about this relationship, how maybe they reflect our desires. Maybe they reflect, maybe even that food in the future can magically appear in front of us with a push of a button, on demand, whatever we want, whenever we want. And certainly not just the positive aspect of our vision of the future, but also the dystopias, and also our fears, our concerns of what that future might lie. And we even try to prototype some of these futures. Back in the 50s, when General Motors showcased their prototype of the kitchen of the future with automated and self-contained kitchens. And I love how they portray that these women are prancing around in the kitchen, kind of almost being courted, pushing these buttons, dancing around, as if they're having this really intimate relationship with them. So what I wanted to spend the next few minutes on is how I see the future happening in the context of innovation and food. And I see this trend that is happening across industry, and not just in food, is this notion of the great decoupling. So the decoupling concept is when you separate one technology or one ability from one thing to the next. And so here's an example of cultured meat. We have all heard of cultured meat, but this one particular is talking about the technology to separate extracting DNA from extinct animals, and here is a mammoth, culture the cells to create cell-based meat. Now, how many of you guys would want to try mammoth steak? No one. Oh, a few of you guys. So unfortunately, we were going to have to wait to taste mammoth steak because I discovered about 2 hours later reading this article that this was actually an April's Fool's prank. I actually thought it was true. And how many of you guys thought that that was, real news out, right? So maybe this could be in the future. There are definitely scientists working on that. But along with decoupling, along with separating these components, is the ability to fuse them back in new combinations. So this is actually, in fact, true. So scientists are growing meat on blades of grass. So can we then take the cells from the meat and using scaffolding in plants and put them together to grow meat in a more sustainable way? Here yet is another example where we can combine good fat cells from fish and put them together with meat cells from cows and recreate what we call designer meat. So meat that is good for you, but that has taste of a cow. So these are all possibilities from the far future. In terms of decoupling, what about taste? Can we decouple taste from the actual food itself? So this is an electrode-embedded lemonade glass filled with water, but that tastes like lemonade. So 0 calories, and it's just pure water and tastes like lemon. In the same university, they're also testing using chopsticks to digitally induce your taste buds so that you are actually not eating anything, but it tastes like you are. There are even researchers looking into how you can replicate the chewing mechanism and the chewing sensation in your mouth so that it seems like you're chewing something and you're not. So Mike Wolf talked about whether we even need kitchen anymore. I'm going to push this question even further and ask, well, do we even need food anymore? And this is obviously a very spicy question. But here we have Mary Oxman from MIT Media Lab creating this amazing research piece about a wearable with a microbiome that is photosynthesizable, where you will absorb the energy through this jacket, and it will transfer the energy through your skin so that you can get energy from the sun. So these are very hypothetical questions and possibilities. But what is interesting to me is that there are a whole lot more possibilities out there for us to discover, new combinations, new technologies. Here are a couple of examples, from image recognition to monitor fish species and ocean health to ensure that we're not overfishing, to gummy bears made from gelatin, sourced and cultured from extinct mammoth DNA, and in this case, this is real, to a 3D printed sushi showcase in South by Southwest this year. So in the bottom, a 3D printer that will print the dough, but as well embedded with the herbs and the seeds. And then you wait a week, it will sprout, and you put the whole entire thing in the oven, and you just pop the whole thing in your mouth. So for me, this is all very exciting possibilities. So in my work as a social technologist at Alpha, I looked into this far future to see what possible outcome and what desirable future we wanted to build. So I wanted to show you this project that I've been working on. It is a speculative piece, and we were trying to look into how we can grow and how we can create sustainable convenience in food. And the hypothesis is that whether we can combine and create this food, a polygenomic tomato that contain all the meals, all the components, ingredients of your meal into one place. And so for me, the future of food is questioning whether we can do something along the line of, I'm waiting for the tagline to come, of a sustainable future, beautifully presented, easily affordable, but with the concept of having plantable meals in your own home with the convenience, being sustainable, low waste, and affordable. So for me, the future of food, Mike Wolf talked about the values of the kitchen that will be constant, and those are wellness, wellness, valued, in taste, and in valued. So what is left to question? And for me, what is left to question is whether or not we can, create food that is sustainably convenient. Because I don't think that we can take convenience out of our life right now. But whether or not we can make that convenience sustainable is a big question in the future of food.